guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. So today I will be sharing with you guys all of the 21 books I read in 2019. So I'm just gonna jump right in because I want to give a brief description of the book. I'm going to actually read the synopsis of the books because I don't know how to explain what happened in the book. So, well, I do know how, but it's a bit complicated. A lot of these books it was really hard to read, but I think these are topics that are important to read about. Most of these books are fiction because I never really explored the nonfiction genre. I'm not sure if I would like it, but I'd like to try it in 2020. So the first book I read is The Way I Used to Be by Amber Smith. So I'm gonna read the synopsis off of my computer here. Eden was always good at being good. Starting high school didn't change who she was. But the night her brother's best friend rapes her, Eden's world capsizes. Some of these words I don't know how to say because I'm not English, but what was once simple is now complex. What Eden once loved, who she once loved, she now hates. What she thought she knew to be true is now lies. Nothing makes sense anymore, and she knows she's supposed to tell someone what happened, but she can't. So she buries it instead, and she buries the way she used to be. Told in 4 parts, freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year, this provocative debut reveals the deep cuts of trauma, but it also demonstrates one young woman's strength as she navigates the disappointment and the unbearable pains of adolescence, of first love and first heartbreak, of friendships broken and rebuilt, and while learning to embrace the power of survival she never knew she had hidden within her heart. So that's basically the synopsis for this book. From what I remember, I really liked this book. I actually gave it a 4 out of 5 rating. And yeah, that's pretty much my review. The second book I read is Sadie by Courtney Summers. So once again, I'm going to read the synopsis on my computer. A missing girl on a journey of revenge. A serial like
One option nearby is guacamole on Morton Avenue. Want to try that one?
no.
The second is Domino's Pizza on Morton Avenue, less than a half kilometer to your north. It's open today from 10 a.m. to 3 a.m. Is that the one you're looking for?
No, goodbye. A missing girl on a journey of revenge. A serial like podcast following the clues she's left behind, and an ending you won't be able to stop talking about. Sadie hasn't had an easy life. Growing up on her own, she's been raising her sister Maddie in an isolated small town, trying her best to provide a normal life and keep their heads above water. But when Maddie is found dead, Sadie's entire world crumbles. After a somewhat botched police investigation, Sadie is determined to bring her sister's killer to justice and hits the road following a few meager clues to find him. When Wes McCrae, a radio personality working on a segment about small, forgotten towns in America, overhears Sadie's story at a local gas station, he becomes obsessed with finding the missing girl. He starts his own podcast as he tracks Sadie's journey, trying to figure out what happened, hoping to find her before it's too late. This book I gave a 5 out of 5 stars. I did not listen to the audiobook for this one, but I really liked it. It was one of my favorites of the year. Definitely. The third book I read is If I Stay by Gail Foreman. Choices. 17-year-old Mia is faced with some tough ones. Stay true to her first love, music, even if it means losing her boyfriend and leaving her family and friends behind. Then, one February morning, Mia goes for a drive with her family, and in an instant, everything changes. Suddenly, all the choices are gone, except one, and it's the only one that matters. Honestly, I read this book because I had it a while back, and I had started it like 5 times, and I just never finished it, so I was determined I was gonna finish it. And yeah, so I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I don't think I'm going to be reading the sequel, but you never know. Fourth book I read is The Diary of Anne Frank, written by Anne Frank. Covered in the attic in which she spent the last years of her life, Anne Frank's remarkable diary has become a world classic, a powerful reminder of the horrors of war, and an eloquent testament to the human spirit. In 1942, with the Nazi occupied Holland, a 13-year-old Jewish girl and her family fled their home in Amsterdam and went into hiding. For the next 2 years, until their whereabouts were betrayed to the Gestapo, the Franks and other families lived cloistered in the secret annex of an old office building, cutting off from outside world. They faced hunger, boredom, the constant cruelties of living in condensed quarters, and the ever-present threat of discovery and death. In her diary, Anne Frank recorded vivid impressions of her experience during this period. This book I gave a 5 out of 5 stars. I find it's very important to read this book and to be conscious of what happened during that time. It was very, very touching book, and I really loved it. And like it says in the synopsis, there were even some humorous moments, which actually made me laugh. So I wasn't expecting that. Fifth book that I read in 2019 is The Female of the Species by Mindy McGinnis. Alex Kraft knows how to kill someone, and she doesn't feel bad about it. 3 years ago, when her older sister Anna was murdered and the killer walked free, Alex uncaged the language she knows best, the language of violence. While her own crime goes unpunished, Alex knows she can't be trusted among other people. Not with Jack, the star athlete who wants to really know her but still feels guilty over the role he played the night Anna's body was discovered. And not with PK, the preacher's kid with a defiant streak who befriends Alex while they volunteer at an animal shelter. As their senior year unfolds, Alex's darker nature breaks out, setting these three teens on a collision course that will change their lives forever. This book specifically, I don't remember. I just remember a brief part of it, but I rated it a 4 out of 5 stars, so I must have liked it at the time. So as you guys can see, there's kind of like a theme going on with my books. It's very not traumatic, I would say, but it's a very important concept to read about. And I am in social work, so I like reading fictions about these things and stuff like that. So sixth book that I read in 2019 was My Heart and Other Black Holes by Jasmine Warga. 16-year-old psychic nerd Azel is obsessed with plotting her own death. With a mother who can barely look at her without wincing, classmates who whisper behind her back, and a father whose violent crime rocked her small town, Azel is ready to turn her potential energy into nothingness. There's only one problem. She's not sure she has the courage to do it alone. But once she discovers a website with a section called Suicide Partners, Azel's convinced she found her solution. A teen boy with the username Frozen Robot, aka Roman, who's haunted by a family tragedy, is looking for a partner. Even though Azel and Roman have nothing in common, they slowly start to fill in each other's broken lives. But as their suicides pact become more concrete, Azel begins to question whether she really wants to go through with it. Ultimately, she must choose between wanting to die or trying to convince Roman to live so they can discover the potential of their energy together. Except that Roman may not be so easy to convince. This book, it was a very dark book, and I don't remember the ending. Well, I wasn't gonna tell you guys, but I rated it once again a 4 out of 5 stars, so I must have liked it. Seventh book that I read in 2019 was Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Sepetys. This is actually my first Ruta Sepetys book that I read, but I was very, very impressed, and I'm gonna keep reading her novels because they look incredible. Lena is just like any other 15-year-old Luthinian Lithuanian girl in 1941. She paints, she draws, she gets crushes on boys. Until one night when Soviet officers barged into their home, tearing her tearing her family from the comfortable life they've known. Separated from her father, forced into a crowded and dirty train car, Lena, her mother, and her younger brother slowly make their way north, crossing the Arctic Circle to a work camp in the closest reaches of Siberia. Here, they are forced, under Stalin's orders, to dig for beets and fight for their lives under the cruelest of conditions. Lena finds solace in her art, at great risk, documenting events by drawing, hoping these messages will make their way to her father's prison camp to let him know they are still alive. It is a long and harrowing journey, spanning years and covering 6,500 miles, but it is through incredible strength, love, and hope that Lena ultimately survives. This book, I really loved it. I'm gonna continue reading her books. I think it's like the first historical fiction I read, and A plus for me. So I give it a 4 out of 5 stars. There must have been something in the book that I didn't quite enjoy if I just gave it a 4. Well, not that a 4 is not good. The eighth book that I read, I think it's the eighth book that I read in 2019 is We Are All Made of Molecules by Susan Nielsen. 13-year-old Stuart is academically, I said that right, brilliant, but socially clueless. 14-year-old Ashley is the undisputed it girl in her class, but her grades stink. Their worlds are about to collide when Stuart and his dad move in with Ashley and her mom. Stuart is trying to be 89.9% happy about it, but Ashley is 110% horrified. She already had to hide the real reason her dad moved out. Stuart could further threaten her position at the top of the social ladder. They are complete opposites, and yet they have one thing in common. They, like everyone else, are made of molecules. This book I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. I don't know what all the 4 out of 5 stars are, but I guess I liked it. It was a weird book, but I liked it. The ninth book that I read in 2019 is American Street by Ibi Zoboi. On the corner of American Street and Joy Road, Fabiola thought she would finally find une belle vie, a good life. But after they leave Port-au-Prince, Haiti, Fabiola's mother is detained by U.S. immigration, leaving Fabiola to navigate her loud American cousins, Chantal, Donna, and Princess, the grittiest of Detroit's West Side, a new school, and a surprising romance, all on her own. Just as she finds her footing in this strange new world, a dangerous proposition presents itself, and Fabiola soon realizes that freedom comes at a cost. So, this one, I know I always say I really liked it, but I actually really, really liked it. I listened to the audiobook of this, and I think I like listening to audiobooks more than actually reading it because it's faster. You can set it at whatever time you want, and yeah, so I rated it a 5 out of 5 stars. It's funny because a lot of these books I don't even remember what happened in them, which is very sad. Like, I'm just 20 years old. I shouldn't forget these things, but the 10th, I think, book that I read in 2019 is Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. It all begins with a fugitive billionaire and the promise of a cash reward. Turtles All the Way Down is about a lifelong friendship, the intimacy of an unexpected reunion, Star Wars science fiction, and Tuatera. Some words I don't know how to say there, so. But at its heart is Asa Holmes, a young woman navigating daily existence within the ever-tightening spiral of her own thoughts. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. From what I remember, I really liked it. I'm trying to remember what happened in it, but whatever. I'm just sharing the book so that you guys can get an idea, and if you guys like the synopsis of it and stuff like that. So, the 11th book that I read is actually a nonfiction book, which I didn't even think that I read a nonfiction book in 2019, but I guess I did. So, it's called Big Magic: Creative Living Beyond Fear by Elizabeth Gilbert. So, I got this book recommendation from Kaylin Nicholson, so she's my favorite YouTuber. And yeah, so obviously I had to read it. Readers of all ages and walks of life have drawn inspiration and empowerment in Elizabeth Gilbert's books for years. Now, this beloved author digs deep into her own generative process to share her wisdom and unique perspective about creativity. With profound empathy and radiant generosity, she offers potent insight into the mysterious nature of inspiration. She asks us to embrace our curiosity and let go of needless suffering. She shows us how to tackle what we most love and how to face down what we most fear. She discusses the attitudes, approaches, and habits we need in order to live our most creative lives, balancing between soulful spirituality and cheerful pragmatism. Gilbert encourages us to uncover the strange jewels that are hidden within each of us. Whether we are looking to write a book, make art, find new ways to address challenges in our work, embark on a dream long deferred, deferred, or simply infuse our everyday lives with more mindfulness and passion. Big Magic cracks open a world of wonder and joy. This one, I think it was my first nonfiction book actually, and I really liked it. I like how she implemented her own experiences in the book. It's not just like um how to do this or how to do that. She actually explained some experiences that she had, and yeah, so it was a very great read. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars once again. The 11th book that I read, I think is the 11th. I know I say this all the time, but is 5 Feet Apart by Rachel Lippincott. Stella Grant likes to be in control, even though her totally out of control lungs have sent her in and out of the hospital most of her life. At this point, what Stella needs to control most is keeping herself away from anyone or anything that might pass along an infection and jeopardize the possibility of a lung transplant. 6 Feet Apart, no exceptions. The only thing Will Newman wants to be in control of is getting out of this hospital. He couldn't care less about his treatments or a fancy new clinical drug trial. Soon, he'll turn 18 and then he'll be able to unplug all these machines and actually go see the world, not just its hospitals. Will's exactly what Stella needs to stay away from. If he so much as breathes on Stella, she could lose her spot on the transplant list. Either one of them could die. The only way to stay alive is to stay apart. But suddenly, 6 feet doesn't feel like safety. It feels like punishment. What if they could steal back just a little bit of the space their broken lungs have stolen from them? Would 5 feet apart really be so dangerous if it stops their heart from breaking too? I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars because I really loved it. I love reading books about mental illnesses and just stuff like that. I also seen the movie like 5 times. Loved it as well. And yeah, so one of my favorite books after Sadie. Another one of my favorite books. I'm not sure if this is my top favorite, but it's really high on the list. It's Catcher by Kaylin Nicholson. Like I said, she's my favorite YouTuber. You guys are probably going to hear about her all on my channel, so get ready. But she wrote a book, and it's a fiction book, and I just loved it. It took me like 2 days to read it, and I can't wait for the sequel and to read the synopsis. When a boy with gray eyes tells you it's not your time to die, do you listen? Ever since the day her baby brother Axel died, Carson has been dreaming of the same boy, the one who told her it wasn't her time to go when her family's lift crashed through a bridge railing and sank to the bottom of the river, shattering her life forever. Trapped by the new divide between her and her parents, and by their drastic measures to shelter the only child they have left, Carson escapes into her dreams every night, floating among the clouds with the gray-eyed boy who saved her. Until her 18th birthday, when fate sends her family home up in flames, leaving her waking world flipped upside down. Suddenly, Carson finds herself on the other side of the country in the big city of Tarragon, alone for the first time in her life, and dropped into the only waking dream she ever had, to attend Yorker Specialty School. But sinister forces are at work beneath the surface of her world, as the gray-eyed boy slips away from her dreams, only to be replaced by nightmares of flames. Carson finds herself indulged by a world of deadly secrets and haunting shadows, one that makes her the key player in the ultimate game of fates. This one, 5 out of 5 stars, you guessed it. And yeah, I cannot wait. Like I said, for the sequel, I'm so excited. The next book is Holding Up the Universe by Jennifer Niven. Everyone thinks they know Libby Strout, the girl once named America's Fattest Teen, but no one is taking the time to look past her weight to get to know who she really is. Following her mom's death, she's been picking up the pieces in the privacy of her home, dealing with her heartbroken father and her own grief. Now, Libby's ready for high school, for new friends, for love, and for every possibility life has to offer. In that moment, I know that part I want to play here at MVB High. I want to be the girl who can do anything. Everyone thinks they know Jack Maslin, too. Yes, he's got the swagger, but he's also mastered the impossible art of giving people what they want, of fitting in. What no one knows is that his own brothers are strangers to him. He's the guy who can re-engineer and rebuild anything, but he can't understand what's going on with the inner workings of his brain. So he tells himself to play it cool, be charming, be hilarious, don't get too close to anyone. Until he meets Libby, when the two get tangled up in a cruel high school game, which lands them in group counseling and community service. Libby and Jack are both pissed, and then surprised, because the more time they spend together, the less alone they feel. Because sometimes when you meet someone, it changes the world, theirs and yours. So this book, I remember like vaguely what happened. I know this is the same thing I've been saying all the time, but I really liked it. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. This next book was probably one of the hardest books I will ever read in my life, but everyone should read it because nothing like that should happen in the world ever. So, it's A Child Called It by Dave Pelzer. This book chronicles the unforgettable account of one of the most severe child abuse cases in California history. It is the story of Dave Pelzer. Oh yeah, I think it's a, how do you call that? He wrote his own experience. Who was brutally beaten and starved by his emotionally unstable alcoholic mother. A mother who played torturous, unpredictable games that left him nearly dead. He had to learn how to play his mother's games in order to survive, because she no longer considered him as a son, but a slave, and no longer a boy, but an it. Dave's bed was an old army cot in the basement, and his clothes were torn and raunchy. When his mother allowed him the luxury of food, it was nothing more than spoiled scraps that even the dogs refused to eat. The outside world knew nothing of his living nightmare. He had nothing or no one to turn to, but his dreams kept him alive. Dreams of someone taking care of him, loving him, and calling him their son. Whew, so even reading the synopsis brings back so many memories of when I was reading. At a point in the book, I needed to stop reading it because it was just too much. I needed to take a break, like watch a video or something. I just couldn't take it mentally, so I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, and I recommend everyone to read it. Next up, I read Anna and the French Kiss by Stephanie Perkins. Anna is looking forward to her senior year in Atlanta, where she has a great job, a loyal best friend, and a crush on the verge of becoming more, which is why she is less than thrilled about being shipped off to boarding school in Paris, until she meets Etienne St. Clair. Smart, charming, beautiful, Etienne has it all, including a serious girlfriend. But in the City of Light, wishes have a way of coming true. Will a year of romantic near misses end with their long-awaited French kiss. This book was just like a fluffy read there. It wasn't much. It's actually a popular book on BookTube. So I figured I'd give it a try because I needed something light and fluffy. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars because personally I found that the main character was a bit annoying. So, um, but other than that, it was a cute, fluffy story. Next up, I read The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert. 17-year-old Alice and her mother have spent most of Alice's life on the road, always a step ahead of the uncanny bad luck biting at their heels. But when Alice's grandmother, the reclusive author of a cult classic book of pitch dark fairy tales, The Hazelwood, Alice learns how bad her luck can really get. Her mother is stolen away by a figure who claims to come from the hinterland, the cruel supernatural world where her grandmother's stories are set. Alice's only lead is the message of her mother left behind: stay away from the Hazelwood. Alice has long steered clear of her grandmother's cultish fans, but now she has no choice to ally with classmate Ellery Finch, a hinterland superfan who may have his own reasons for wanting to help her. To retrieve her mother, Alice must venture first to the Hazelwood, then into the world where her grandmother's tales began, and where she might find out how her own story went so wrong. So this book, I just gave it a 3 out of 5 stars because I found it was like confusing. It was going a lot of back and forth between the stories and her life and her going in the Hazelwood, and then the stories in the Hazelwood. I mean, I enjoyed it, but it was not my favorite book. The next book I think is a non-fiction, The Life-Changing Manga of Tidying Up, a magical story by Marie Kondo. So this is basically someone who had a lot of difficulty in her life and she really wanted to get organized, so Marie Kondo went and she explained to her how she should only keep things that bring her joy in life and all that. I don't know why I gave it just a 3 out of 5 stars, but there must have been a reason, but I really liked it. It was my first manga book, graphic novel. The next book I read is Under Rose-Tainted Skies by Louise Gournel. At 17, Nora has accepted that the four walls of her house delineate her life. She knows that fearing everything from inland tsunamis to odd numbers is irrational, but her mind insists the world outside is too big, too dangerous. So she stays safe inside, watching others' lives through her windows and social media feeds. But when Luke arrives on her doorstep, he doesn't see a girl defined by medical terms and mental health. Instead, he sees a girl who is funny, smart, and brave, and Nora likes what he sees. Their friendship turns into deeper, but Nora knows Luke deserves a normal girl, one who can walk beneath the open sky, one who is unafraid of kissing, one who isn't so screwed up. Can she let him go for his own good, or can Nora learn to see herself through Luke's eyes? This book I gave a 5 out of 5 stars. I really liked it. The main character had OCD, and it was very, very interesting how she also had type of anxiety that I had never heard about before. The last book I read in 2019, which I finished at 11:59 in 2019 on December 31st, was The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. When she stumbles across the ad, she's looking for something else completely, but it seems like too good of an opportunity to miss. A live-in nanny post with a staggeringly generous salary, and when Rowan Kane arrives at her Heatherbury house, she is smitten by the luxury smart home, fitted out with all modern conveniences, by the beautiful Scottish Highlands, and by this picture-perfect family. What she doesn't know is that she's stepping into a nightmare, one that will end with a child dead, and herself in prison, awaiting trial for murder. Writing to her lawyer from prison, she struggles to explain the unraveling events that led to her incarceration. It wasn't just the constant surveillance from the cameras installed around the house, or the malfunctioning technology that woke the household with booming music or turning the lights off at the worst possible times. It wasn't just the girls, who turned out to be a far cry from the immaculately behaved model children she met at her interview. It wasn't even the way she was left alone for weeks at a time with no adults around apart from the handyman Jack Grant. It was everything. She knows she's made mistakes. She admits that she lied to obtain the post and that her behavior towards the children wasn't always ideal. She's not innocent by any means, but she maintains she's not guilty, at least not of murder, which means someone else did. It was a great book. I loved it, and it was so well done. I can't wait to dive into more like murder mysteries and stuff like that in 2020. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars if you guys didn't know already. That's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I was really requested for me to do a book video, so this is my first one. But let me know if you guys liked it and if you guys want more book content or reading vlogs or things like that, and I'll be sure to give that to you guys. I hope you guys all have a happy new year. It is time for new beginnings, new habits, just everything new. So embrace it and enjoy yourselves. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!